trust our United States government. And I don't mean to be short or ugly, but that's exactly the way I feel. And if they want to do anything with me, let them do it. They took my health. They've ruined my life. So what else could they do?
Namely, inducement of hysteria, alteration or solidification of belief systems, alteration, destruction of social structures. So the objective of the paper is to understand the physics and the engineering of whatever these things are. It is not to help these people that have been hurt. The injuries that they describe come from UAPs and UFOs often match up with directed energy weapons. I don't have an agenda. I don't have a side I've sold out to. I am objective, and I'm sick of the bullshit.
Okay, I know everyone probably, right?
Well, I'm not disavowing that. It was an interview that was done almost maybe 3 or 4 years ago when I was in the Senate.
Right.
People that came forward to us, some of these people were Navy pilots, admirals, generals, whatever. A little bit of selective editing, but it's okay because, you're trying to sell a show there.
A little bit of selective editing there, but that's okay. You're trying to sell a show, right? I mean, can you blame the guy? Trying to sell a show here, folks. What do you think this is? A documentary? Oh, my goodness. And the information circles go round and round. I hope y'all are having a fantastic Monday, a new Monday, a first day of a week, first week of a new year. 2026, and we're gonna kick off this episode with the UAP injury report, because the thing about the UAP injury report is that it got released, came out, people reviewed it, but once it got attached to Eric Davis, I think a lot of people discounted the credibility of it. But the study itself lends a lot of credibility. We have heard for decades and decades that folks have been injured by UAP and UFO. I had a guest on my show who suffered injury from a UFO and then went through savant syndrome. We've heard multiple accounts of military members over the years suffering from different injuries. There's a long history. I mean, we even had a car melt under whatever propulsion they were using on this UAP. You can see the damage to the roof. All 3 passengers of the car ended up with cancer, losing hair, suffering just unbelievable injuries. But we don't really talk a lot about it. And I want that to change in 2026. I think this is an important topic. And I think that's why, Danny Sheehan has talked about helping ex-members of the military in lawsuits against the government for injuries due to this technology. And the interesting thing in this report is that it acknowledges these injuries. When Eric Davis generated this report, the AAWSAP program wasn't even known of. It was only known by very few. So when he generated this report, he didn't know it was going to be collected, compiled, and used as part of the AAWSAP program. But this was actually, it's hard to tell. The date we have is December 2009, but they also have a redaction on the top of the paper. So we really don't know. It was declassified 11 March 2010. But again, there's heavy redactions throughout. Now we're going to go through some of this actual report because I think it's important, if for anything else, for one more show, one more podcaster, one more dork researcher to get this on the record, because I do think it is that important. DIRD. That stands for Defense Intelligence Reference Document. And you've heard DIRDs probably all throughout, especially recently, at least since the 2017, pivotal moment of the New York Times article. You've heard of DIRDs. You might not understand the significance of them, but it's a Defense Intelligence Reference Document. It's a document our intelligence community is going to reference when trying to research a subject. So essentially, I'm in the CIA. I hear about, what's this thing about people getting injured by UFOs? You're going to reference the DIRD on it. You're not going to go read a ufology book, right? You're not going to do hours and hours of research that's available for the rest of us. You're going to use the DIRD that a professional has prepared with access to classified information. So you see here at the time, even Eric Davis's name was redacted from the report. And it's a pretty thorough report. And it starts with the preface and the summary. And it's interesting because it starts with a story. Several years ago, 3 previous fit and active individuals experienced an anomalous, irregular, incongruous, and inconsistent with their domain aerospace-related event. Within 72 hours, they suffered medical signs and symptoms, acute and subacute effects. These included almost immediate arrhythmia, overexposed to the presumed source of an electromagnetic radiation, skin, and varying degrees of the following as a function of their body surface exposure times: fever, pain, headaches, numbness and paresthesia, malaise, diarrhea, loss of hair and alopecia, skin eruptions or boils, cardiac palpitations, beginnings of what were to become chronic headaches, and symptoms of insomnia and other sleep and dream disturbances. Moderate to occasional severe anxiety and insomnia. 2 of the persons also experienced photophobia, extreme sensitivity to light, dry and scratchy stinging eyes, and extreme inflamed bloodshot scleria, whites of the eyes. Probably mispronounced that. With soft tissue swelling of the eyelids. One of the 3 experienced moderate blood dyscrasia and signs of radiation illness, and over several years developed signs of malignant transformations. Extensive but controversial investigations revealed the 3 had been subjected to an accidental exposure in the near field to a broadband ultra-high radio frequency mixed radiation of RF, NIEMR, that's non-ionizing electromagnetic radiation, and microwave energies, including non-specific and unmeasured induced ionizing effects, probably mixed UVA, UVB, and UVC centered at about 785 megahertz. These 3 persons were antenna engineers subjected to an anomalous, quote, accident. An extensive review of the medical literature and a compilation of a database has revealed an additional relevant but less dramatic 42 cases from the peer-reviewed medical literature and an additional unpublished similar 300 cases, primarily when fields were measured or emitters were known of mixed exposures from 1 to 10 gigahertz at power densities of above 100 milliwatts per centimeter squared. So it goes on to say this paper relates, summarizes, and analyzes evidence of unintended injury to human observers by anomalous advanced aerospace systems. And that's a very interesting way of putting it, isn't it? Additionally, an argument is made that the subsequent work can inform, example, reverse engineer, through clinical diagnosis, certain physical characteristics of possible future advanced aerospace systems from unknown provenance that may be a threat to the United States interests. The reason it's hard to get that sentence out, it's definitely not a natural flow, but it's also very, very apparent to me anyway that that sentence was written in that way for a very specific, probably legalese reason. An argument is made that the subsequent work can inform, through clinical diagnosis, certain physical characteristics of possible future advanced aerospace systems from unknown provenance that may be a threat to United States interests. Advanced aerospace systems from an unknown provenance. Kathy didn't know. Oh yeah. There's an injury report. Oh, thanks, Kathy. Always so nice. Yeah, there was an injury report, and that's what we're going through. Okay, so the evidence discussed in this report includes scientific material that has been peer-reviewed, contained in recently declassified government documents, and early emergent clinical medical analysis also underway in companion research studies. Based on historical cases, humans have found to have been injured from exposure to anomalous vehicles, especially airborne, and when in relatively close proximity. The primary mechanisms of injury are related to electromagnetic radiation field effects, EMR field effects. And did y'all know that? That's what he's saying. What is actually hurting these people? I mean, obviously not in all cases, but in some cases, electromagnetic radiation field effects. The primary mechanism of injury, the biophysical characteristics of the injuries are well understood. The energy-related propulsion systems are not well understood. The potential deployment of systems is thus important to understand. Sufficient accidents have been accurately reported, and medical data acquired as to support a hypothesis that some advanced systems are already deployed and opaque to full U.S. understanding. Amongst the most important pathophysiological effects are heating and burn injuries, ionizing and non-ionizing, thermally induced, neurological effects, cognitive, central nervous system, neuromuscular, central, and autonomic nervous systems, sensory, peripheral nervous systems, neuropsychiatric, neuroendocrine, auditory, cranial nerves, 7 and 8, communication and disabling effects, communication and disabling effects, noise and central neurocognitive, analysis of clinical diagnostic codes together with environmental conditions observed during anomalous events are clustered in meaningful ways. The medical analysis, while not requiring the invention of an alternative biophysics, do indicate the use of unconventional and advanced energy systems. Unconventional and advanced energy systems. That is crazy. So I guess if we're looking at it, it's a government report from a government standpoint, like the alternative, our minds are going to go to like UFO. But if you're let's say an FBI agent and you're looking into this and you're looking for only prosaic explanations, then this would probably lead me to believe this isn't alien or UFO. This is some other entity of unknown provenance, right? That has this technology. It's not ours, but it's somebody's. The objective of the overall program for which this paper has been prepared is to understand the physics and the engineering of advanced aerospace weapons systems applications into the future, from now through the year 2050. This study addresses the clinical medical signs and symptoms and biophysics of injury known and expected from unintended exposure to anomalous systems. So the objective of the paper is to understand the physics and the engineering of whatever these things are. It is not to help these people that have been hurt, which is kind of fucked up too. Because here they're saying they know there's effects. They know there's unintended negative effects to people that have exposure to these anomalous systems. But they're concerned with the physics and the engineering. How did they make it? We don't give a shit about the people that got hurt. We want to know how they made that. What is addressed in this review? Advanced aerospace technologies, as with current technologies, often involve exposure of humans to exceptionally strong and in the future to likely exotic fields. Now so although we might not be using it now, in the future, we're definitely going to be using something like this. And it's definitely going to put people in proximity of this where they could be negatively affected by it. That's wild. And again, this came out 2010. 2009, 2010. Available to the public unclassified after that. This review is meant to cover the clinical, medical, injurious effects, including harmful psychiatric, psychological effects on the human organism that may be induced. Specifically, we are interested both in the more narrow scope of certain near-field heating and burn effects on biological tissues, and also systematic or internal medical, neurological, psychiatric injury, or sequelae, usually modulated by neural tissue. Near field is a term we intentionally leave as subjective. That is, we include effects of possible exposures that are within sight of the injured and which are acute. Goes on about measuring the injuries. The most important bandwidth of interest is the range with tissue effects on humans from about 300 kilohertz to 300 gigahertz. That is from about 1 km to 1 mm wave lengths. In particular, we note that many of the effects on tissues, as currently with all environmental exposures of non-ionizing electromagnetic radiation, NIEMR, toxic effluents, and noise thermal effects, are initially incorrectly adduced to be subclinical, until chronic effects of low-level effects and or accumulative doses are recognized. We will be particularly cognizant to not miss the subtlety in determining harm to persons in the near-field possible advanced aerospace systems. We will not discuss ionizing radiation, tissue effects, unless they are adduced to be mixed field. And then they use the example of the Landrum case. So that's a case I was talking about where you can actually see the damage to the top of the car. You can look up interviews with those witnesses. They all suffered injuries, really bad injuries.
Well, I don't trust our United States government. And I don't mean to be short or ugly, but that's exactly the way I feel. And if they want to do anything with me, let them do it. They've took my health. They've ruined my life. So what else could they do?
It happened on a trip through Texas in 1980. Betty Cash, her friend Vicki Landrum, and Vicki's son Colby all experienced something that has never been explained. There was a bright light, a metallic craft, and intense heat.
We were literally burning up.
The government wanted to experiment on something, and they taken the lives of people to do it.
They all had stomach aches, they all had diarrhea, they all vomited, they were all burned, they all developed sores later. They all lost some hair. Mrs. Cash, most of her hair, Mrs. Landrum less, and the boy even less. But in each case, something happened that is typical of radiation exposure.
They swelled till I couldn't hardly see. And every time I'd get out in the sun, it'd be big blisters, and I had sores all over my arms. After this happened to me, well, I couldn't work.
The illness that she suffered 3 weeks after her exposure was an absolute classic radiation injury. And she lost skin, she lost hair on the exposed side. She then had diarrhea, vomiting, and all the illnesses you get, and it was exactly on time. I don't think she would have made it up. And the other thing is, I don't think that she could have made it up because she didn't know it, and she's precisely on time for describing what would be a 2-grade, 3-gray radiation exposure. She has suffered only losses from the very beginning. She was economically devastated by the illness that she had after she was radiated. I've been giving her medication for years to try to help her out through all this. Later, she did get breast cancer and had mastectomies as well. All of this, she was uninsured. No one was going to insure her in the early 80s.
Now, this is the part I'm particularly interested in. Therefore, since the potential deployment of advanced weapons technology is subsumed under this topic, of interest are not only side effects associated with possible lift propulsion field mechanisms of advanced craft architecture, but also effects from advanced weapons systems. These include, but are not limited to, beam weapons and active denial systems, including high-powered microwaves. We are aware of claims that some new and emergent systems may be intended to cause harm, and thus even be an intended weapon system. We make no attempt herein to validate any claims. There's ample precedent in U.S. history for utilizing a separate analytical framework for verification and compliance issues, as in the lag in our recognizing former Soviet Union and Chinese systems, utilizing infrasonic laser blinding in NIEMR weapons that went unappreciated by our intelligence agencies for 2 decades. Historically, the intelligence community adduces verification first, claims of injury secondly, and compliance after lengthy state-sponsored discursive. We will not make that mistake. From a sociological perspective, expansion of this theme may also include the effects of humans en masse, namely inducement of hysteria, alteration or solidification of belief systems, alteration, destruction of social structures, the inducement of hysteria, the alteration or solidification of belief systems, the alteration or the destruction of social structures, group dynamics, etc. So proposing they have a weapons system, or maybe it's some form of attack that can cause these things. That is incredible. It is well understood that long-term exposure to even chronic low strength as well as acute high strength electromagnetic fields, ionizing radiation, and intense lasers, etc., can have harmful effects on human physiology. It is also known that EMR mechanisms can disrupt physiological and psychological functioning on a temporary basis. Disrupt physiological and psychological functioning on a temporary basis. Emerging data support that some of the chronic low-level effects alter the ability of cells to function properly due to epigenetic effects, damage to the DNA, RNA, protein regulatory pathways, independent of chromosome disruption, and simultaneously alter the metabolism of dividing cells of the neuroimmune system. The same holds true for exposure to toxic chemical, biological, or nuclear materials. It's insane that this came out and everybody got so caught up in the gimbal and the go fast and the alien technology and the reverse engineering programs. And it's like we all forgot that there's literally people, hundreds, that have been injured by, we can debate about what it is all day, but people have been injured by this. Let's see, Steve's on the cash landrum. He says there is no provable damage from the case. You can see the vehicle clearly in footage from 83 with no damage, including the dashboard, which has long been alleged to be warped. Yeah, that's the thing, right? The video I saw was you could see damage on the roof. But again, I don't know if that was taken the next day or, a year later or 6 years later. Like, I don't know that. This is where stuff gets really interesting in this report. Because Eric Davis gets into some newly unclassified material that he reviewed that I don't know if there's any better word for it than just kind of shocking. I mean, it really is it's kind of a shocking communication. But before we get there, this is what others have said openly about injury caused by EMR field effects. There's relatively comprehensive literature on reported deleterious effects from exposure at close ranges to perceived anomalous aircraft of apparent advanced design. Some of the claimed physiological effects include such phenomena as paralysis, electrical shock, feeling of heat, burns, perception of odors. Interesting. I have heard the Greys have a funk. I kid it. If you're Grey, I'm just making a joke. Don't beam me up, please. Whether such effects are the result of unintended or intended harm to humans is yet to be determined. Okay. Though evidence for the latter can be inferred in certain cases. Well, that's very reassuring. So he's basically saying in some instances it looks like they actually may be trying to harm us. We'll draw on the literature for selected cases where exposure and emitter data are known or can be inferred, or where injury can be logically related to biophysical parameters. That is, it is of particular interest in a threat analysis program, regardless of whether anomalous craft-induced physiological effects of humans are intended or not, to ascertain probable mechanisms, field strengths, etc., involved in the generation of the reported physiological effects. It is our contention that characteristics of the fields or mechanisms associated with close encounters with anomalous craft can even sometimes carefully be gleaned from archival records where effects on humans' physiology have been carefully reported. This is true because the medical literature of such field effects, although not many related to craft, has been mature for decades and is rich in peer-reviewed medical reports and papers. There are several professional societies within DHHS, National Science Foundation, National Institute of Health, domains, including the Centers of Disease Control, Epidemiology, Intelligence Services, that follow these effects, and numerous examples will be discussed. Okay. That was kind of the boring part. This is the crazy part. So a couple years ago, a citizen who believed he was being targeted by the United States government with harassing field effect weapons walked into an FBI field office with a 2-page letter signed by him and addressed to special agent, redacted name, of the United States Secret Service. The letter said in part, agents of the U.S. Secret Service, as you already know, have been committing very serious crimes against me and other members of my family for a very long time, and I'm taking more direct action to prevent it from continuing. I am going to get an admissible confession from at least one of your agents, one way or the other. And if I don't get what I am demanding from you today, I will use the method of torture described in the attached pages to obtain that confession and to punish the agent for his or her involvement in the illegal acts that your agents have been perpetrating against me and my family. Now, you can imagine, of course, he was then immediately arrested. And after he was arrested, the court found the evidence for the alleged electromagnetic assaults unconvincing. The district court then held a competency hearing at which he testified, inter alia, that the back of a pair of his shoes were vaporized by an electromagnetic weapon fired at his feet in 2001. He presented the shoes in question to the district court, but it appeared to the court that the heel of the shoe had simply worn out due to ordinary use. Inevitably, Redacted's mental status was questioned. After receiving this report, they requested that he be examined by a medical professional of his own choosing. So he gets examined by his own medical professional, one of his choosing, and a psychiatrist says, yes, you're a paranoid schizophrenic. But the thing that's crazy is, although the government wasn't harassing him, the document that he had FOIA'd was valid. It was an recently unclassified U.S. government document that described precisely and accurately the nature of the field effects that he claimed existed. It was recent, 1998, and classified until 2006, and controlled document, not to be disseminated to U.S. allies, NATO, or physically even be taken outside the United States except for secure U.S. Embassy military attaché. It was from a unit in the Intelligence and Security Command, INSCOM, the U.S. Army analytical element responsible for coordinating national intelligence community assessments of military threat potentials, based on current worldwide research. Here are some bullets from that document. Classified information exists that is highly pertinent to the subject of this study, and only a small part of the classified literature has been released. Yet, while directionally indicative of interest and intention to understand, the material does not rise to the quality of the initiative of the program in which this paper serves as one analytical example. There is no evidence that the system described in the document had been fielded. The development of generators and aiming devices is not a rate-limiting issue. There is no doubt that they would work. Again, there is no doubt that they would work. The concerns, therefore, that individuals exposed to field effects as described in the document and in this paper would suffer the claimed injuries are legitimate. Amongst the systems described are those of special interest in this effort. Claimed injury from near-field exposure to aerospace anomalous vehicles and systems. As will be described, the pattern and circumstances of injury very often belly naysayer attempts to discredit witnesses, analysts, and those who suffer directly or indirectly from the systems. Even those who are, from time to time, delusional are not necessarily poor reporters of information outside their particular and personal delusion. Examples of systems the INSCOM analysis described as real and potential include precisely those asserted by good observers, consistent with near-field RF, EM, NIEMR, thermal, infrasonic, and coherent light laser effects. And this is where it gets a little uncomfortable. Microwave communication, hearing, localized heating, CO2 laser communication, hearing, localized heating, ability to instill fear secondary to above, including with use of messaging and RF carrier wave modulated intracranial voices through thermoelastic expansion of intercranial spaces at 5 kilohertz. That is, beaming a frequency into your brain that's going to make you scared. Almost sounds like what happened at Skinwalker. Ability to direct thermal effects to include directed pain, arrhythmia, and second-degree burns. Ability to cause frontal temporal headache with MM waves. Pulses of radio frequency. As an example, 2450 megahertz over 12.4 to 1.24 MeV UHF 1.0 DM 1.0 M pressure waves to disorient and destabilize muscular coordination. At this frequency, 40 J/cm and of microsecond duration pulses will cause thermoelastic expansion in the brain, as well as the cochlear microphonics for hearing sensation. Micron pulse widths per pulse thresholds are near 20 J/cm. This is bothersome. I'm an empathetic person. And when I read stuff like this, I think about the victims of this, the people going through this. And I just cannot imagine half of this stuff. Use of waves to instigate cortical surface effects and seizures through delta wave, EPSP, and IPSP. Through simulation of hippocampus CA3, pyramidal cells, and cells of the pyriform cortex sustained over 1 to 5 minutes for ICTAL development for petite mal or grand mal seizures. Holy fucking shit. So they can make you hear voices. They can make you afraid. They can make it so you can't even walk. And on top of that, they can give you a seizure for 1 to 5 minutes. Loss of consciousness, muscle spasms, muscle weakness. Paresthesia with UHF, SHF lasting for minutes. Increase of core body temperature up to above 105.8 Fahrenheit with VHF within 15 to 30 minutes. They can hit you with this weapon for 15 to 30 minutes, and your body temperature is going to go up to above 105.8 degrees. That's fatal. Use of pulse microwaves to temporarily interfere with short-term spatial memory. Nausea, vomiting, and disorientation can be easily induced with audible frequencies. At 145 decibels at selected frequencies of 100 to 500 hertz, within seconds up to a few minutes. Combination of infrasonic and sonic tones can be selected for specific effects on the vestibular apparatus to induce highly specific gastrointestinal and neural effects. This is not a sci-fi book, y'all. This is technology we have right now. Just hitting people with these different waves of energy. Electromagnetic, radio frequency, microwave, whatever it is, you can cause all these different effects. Yeah, and Steve, you make a great point with green, right? They could be from completely mundane causes, or the scans could be being completely misinterpreted. Kit Green also admits the scans can show mundane illnesses which can only be identified after death. Absolutely. I think with this stuff, we have to be just as skeptical as we are with anything, right? Especially when you involve a guy that told us about the 4 species of aliens. If y'all don't remember that. Yep, same guy. However, the report is sourced. And I think when you're looking at over 300 instances of this, I'm sure there's some bullshit in there, but I'm sure there's some real shit in there too. Just my opinion. Okay. The Airborne Instruments Lab in 1956 reported for the first time anecdotal evidence that persons could hear radio frequencies. The data were, however, deemed important enough to be placed in a corporate advertisement and warning. Yet the first systematic review of evidence and experiment is what is now known to be human capability to hear modulations in ears or the temporal lobes, as well as in the apparatus of the inner ear, cochlear microphonic, was not published until 1961, followed by a series of 8 peer-reviewed papers over the following decade. The most comprehensive review that describes the biophysics and the methodology to modulate RF to incorporate purposive communications, and which also describes in detail injury patterns, was published in 2003 by Motorola, and is still the seminal meta-analysis on these subjects. So then they go through some deals for the purposes of their study. They're going to be considering all of these things here. The mechanism of transduction of the RF may be to or through skin, bone, or to external auditory mediums. And this is like, these are like those headphones you get that aren't really headphones. Like you could put them around your ear, but like they're not in your ear, you know, like these AirPods are. But you can still hear, right? Because they're like, it's induced through a frequency. This leads right into how the damage occurs, relationship of physics and biophysics to injuries. To give but one hypothesis with regard to exotic mechanisms, there is the possibility that those are effects predicted by general relativity theory that would correlate with some of the reported data in which the black body heat spectrum of an object would be blue shifted under conditions of space-time manipulation for lift and propulsion. Were a human exposed to blue shifting at relatively close range, symptoms associated with broadband radiation microwave, visible UV soft X-rays could be expected. Medical data supports this option. That is, mixed NI EMR causes microwave tissue heating and also disruption of clones of white blood cells to cause cessation of cell division. These cases and all other clinical data are in this report are HIPAA protected. So we can get some of the details, but not all of them. One of the outcomes from exposure to, say, ionizing radiation due to any of the above phenomena is damage to cellular DNA. Holy shit. Cellular DNA. Jack Brewer, he's in fact, he came up in my research because I'm going through this and I'm like, what are we doing about this? Like, what are we doing? And we're not doing shit. They did the report and that's it. And then we read the first couple lines of the report says, this report is not for the victims that this happened to. This is so that we can try to reverse engineer the weaponry or use it as weaponry. Oh, thank you very much. Now, as far as I understand it, and this is only because of interviews that he's given, I believe Danny Sheehan is representing several U.S. former and current military members that have been injured by these things. And he says in some of these interviews that, well, once these work their way through the courts, then we're going to be able to find out these details. We're not, y'all. They're either going to win and get everything classified, not public, or they're going to do a deal and gag order it all. And then, so they'll take the settlement money because they need the money. We know that, you know how much medical costs are. Of course. You can't blame them for taking the money. So they're going to take a settlement, but then they're going to sign a piece of paper that says, you can't talk about this. You can't tell people what happened to you. All you can say is we agreed on a settlement, and that's it. The term radio frequency, when applied to the electromagnetic spectrum, covers the frequency range 100 kilohertz to 300 gigahertz. The term microwave is applied to the frequency range. Okay, so this is giving out basically the dangerous waves of radio frequencies, microwaves, etc. Because they can operate in safe ranges, and they can operate in these ranges that we're looking at here. The effects on humans of ultra-high frequency and super-high frequency are primarily those of heating. The rate at which energy of radio frequency radiation is absorbed in body tissues is described as a specific absorption rate, or the SAR, expressed in watts per kilogram, and depends on the frequency and the power density expressed in watts per square meter, which can be described as the power crossing unit area normal to the direction of wave propagation. Okay, so this is, if I read through this, y'all are going to get bored out of your mind. They're saying the burn is one of the more common ones, which makes sense. It makes sense, right? Super high frequency, anything. The first thing I think of is burn when I think injury. I said it before, I worked radio communications in the Army when I was 100 years ago, when I was an old man, and there were dishes that literally you could not, if you stood in front of it, it would like melt the skin off your hand. That's how powerful some of these frequencies can be. From the perspective of aerospace applications, the millimeter wavelength of emitters has been of greatest interest for human effects, and there have been extensive reviews documenting effects at both low and high levels of incident energy. For our purposes, the most basic biophysical information that pertains is clear. With dry clothing, 90 to 95% of the energy is efficiently absorbed with or without an air gap acting as an impedance transformer. These millimeter waves penetrate the skin to a depth of several millimeters. The ANSI, American National Standards Institute, safety guidelines of 5 MW over cm squared for RF over NIEMR equates to a SAR of 65 to 357 W over kg. I mean, the thing about this is that this was ordered by our AAWSAP team at the time. And it's incredible to me that we have all this scientific data. You can say what you want about Eric Davis, but he is respected in certain circles on the inside. So I don't think if you were looking into this at some kind of intelligence capacity, I don't think if you got the DIRD and you read that Eric Davis wrote it, I don't think you'd be like, oh, fuck that, I'm not gonna. You know what I mean? I think there's definitely, he is a scientist, right? And clearly he's citing references all throughout the paper. So far there's nothing I'm reading where I'm like, whoa, that's not super unscientific. Now, there are parts where he gets a little wishy-washy for sure. And I think that points out just the national security implications. It's like trying to weave this needle and thread through a very, very dangerous piece of cloth. So this gets into the heating injury. I'm going to get to some of these bullet points so y'all don't lose your minds with boredom, but essentially we've got warming, prickly sensation over exposed, glabrous skin, sensation of burning, no itching or small melanation injury, arrhythmia, headache, temporal, effect lasting 3 weeks. Oh, fuck. You ever had a 3-week headache? Dizziness, vertigo, often with nausea, vomiting after 24 to 72 hours, cardiac palpitations at 48 to 72 hours, neurasthenia and peripheral neuropathy, absent fasciculation, absent evidence of neuromuscular small fiber disease, malaise and low-grade fever, severe anxiety with high exposure, corneal abrasion, 30 to 60 day subacute persistent sleep disorder, paresthesia that can last up to 3 years and become chronic. It's important to note that one can do a semi-quantitative dose response determination of apparent anomalous events by comparing clinical reports with what we know from the literature, at least as a first approximation of what one may adduce the power system effects at near field may have been. For example, from the peer-reviewed medical literature, one can find cases inclusive of about a dozen patients and subjects exposed to 1 to 10 minutes RF. Then it gets into some measurements here where there seems to be no effects. And then it seems when it gets to greater than 50 or 2.45 gigahertz UHF, SHF presumed is when radial neuropathy and diastasia can start. So above that 50 MW/cm squared mark, it seems to be is where the damage starts happening. Kathy, curious if there's any remedies? That's a great question. I mean, if you're, there's treatment for cancer and there's treatment for burns, right? But as far as treatment for some of this long-term damage caused by any of these things, I've literally heard nothing. An observation made often in literature of aerospace-related reports of anomalous object after effects, clinically valid but not linked to any observed heating effect, is the appearance of what looked to be 1 to 3 centimeter localized circumscribed arrhythmias, occasional gangreous, and subdermal wheals, boils, and I can't even say that word, abrasions. These injuries appear concomitantly, with what are otherwise felt to be burns from microwave or other RF injuries, except they are often found on clothed parts of the body at a distance from the worst second-degree burns, and dermatologically, they can't be diagnosed as thermal or RF-related injuries. That's interesting. That's reminds me of not the Varhania, Brazil thing, but what happened, I think it was Brazil also, where the people were claiming they were basically getting hit with these beams, these light beams. Some of them, I think, called them lasers. Some of them called them light beams, whatever, that they said were from UFOs. And there was actual injuries to some of these people. So right through your shirt, jacket, whatever you're wearing. Imagine a second-degree burn just shows up on your chest. Unbelievable. A recent publication from the Bogolubov Laboratory of Theoretical Physics, Joint Institute for Nuclear Research, Dubna, and Tashkent, Russia, Faculty of Physics, and the Institute for Physics, Rostock, may offer some first notions of an underlying pathophysiological mechanism. The study is said to be theoretical but based on experimental data and appears to be unrelated to any emitter concerns, RF or otherwise, and is not linked to an aerospace application, although funded by a prestigious organization known to be interested in the field effects. Wild. So I'm going to need somebody to talk to about this. And hey, look who's here. Mr. Flack.
Good evening.
How are you, sir?
Fucking great, buddy. I want to say Merry Christmas and Happy New Year and
Merry Christmas.
Holiday shenanigans.
Yeah, man. Happy New Year's. It's New Year. New Year's is always exciting. You know, it's like fresh start, new beginnings. Even if it's not, it feels like a fresh start.
All fresh shenanigans, in my opinion, dude. This is when the pranks start. You know,
this is when the pranks start.
The end of the year is when the retaliation happens, when the pranking happens to you. So you got to get it in now, when nobody remembers that you are in prank mode.
Right. Yep. Suspicion is low. So, have you been watching this at all? Listening? Have you looked into this study at all?
I've been running around like a maniac trying to get myself together for this. So I really didn't have time. I actually, like a couple minutes ago, tried to look at the DIRDs and like, oh my God, there's so much fucking information there. So I'm gonna have to take your word on it for this, and then read a bunch of stuff when I get all.
Dude, there's so much, and there's like almost 40 pages on this report, and like we won't go through every single thing, but I think some of the biggest things that I've noticed is that the injuries that they describe come from UAPs and UFOs often match up with directed energy weapons.
Yeah. I noticed something similar, and oddly enough, Jack Sarfati, when I was talking to him about the things that I've seen and the crap that I've seen, and I was talking about the weird effects that it had temporally, he wasn't concerned with any of that. He was like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. But do you know anything about cancers?
What? So tell us about it. If you're okay with it, tell us about your experience. What happened?
Well, I saw a flying saucer when I was like 14, like dead silent in the air, not moving, lights stationary, but with lights, so it really didn't make any sense. Like, I don't know, just one of the strangest things in my life. Missing time, maybe about half an hour to an hour, and then it kind of like just took off without any noise either. You know, like I don't remember it being gone. I don't remember it being there, type of thing. You know, like I see it 1 second, then it's not there another second. You know, I don't know, just very strange, but like odd temporal effects, right? Like to deal with time. And I don't know, man. Like just very strange.
Like
I was talking to him about it.
You had effects like that afterwards?
During, man, like
okay.
You ever daydream? Like I'm already in trouble now. I'm supposed to be doing my homework. I'm young and in fucking maybe middle school. So I'm like in trouble for not doing my homework when I got home. You know, so like it's around like 8:30, maybe 9 o'clock after dinner. I'm still sat there because I didn't eat my dinner. You know, so I should be doing those things, right? And like I'm not a bad kid, so like. I just didn't want to do homework when I got home. So I would have sat there and done it as quick as possible so I can get back to cartoons, video games, whatever the fuck I would have been up to, right? But I remember it being around like 8:30, and then like daydreaming a little bit, and then noticing through like the windows and like right across from me that there was what looked like a Simon Says like memory game thing sat dead center of the like my visual line. Above a friend's house, and this is like not very far away, maybe within 100, 120 feet from where I am. I'm on maybe 3rd floor, and it's just sat there, and I'm looking at it probably for about like 10 minutes before I realized like I'm looking at the fucking thing, And then I get up and I open the door, and it's still there. Like, I didn't know if it was like a glare on the glass. Like, I also didn't have Simon Says. I fucking hated that game. Then weirdly enough, the thing that I seen in because I hadn't seen Close Encounters. Like, I watched all other Steven Spielberg's works, but maybe up until about a year ago, I hadn't seen Close Encounters. And there's at least like, there's at least like 2 or 3 craft that look like that fucking thing. But the weirdest part to me is, like, this was a saucer, right? Which we all know now with lore, saucers are like 60s. Right, by the 90s, we had like triangular craft and delta wing things. You know, like real different stuff. Still quiet, maybe not dead still for about an hour. You know, but things that baffle us. You know, like so this is well out of date for the whole saucer thing. So that kind of weirded me out. You know. And the other thing is, like I wasn't really into UFOs that much. Like, I'd see things on like the History Channel or whatever, and it'd be kind of cool, but I really didn't give it too much credence until I seen that thing, and then I've been obsessed ever since.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of a lot of people that get obsessed with this stuff and get into it really deep. Is like, when I talk to people, a lot of people have experienced something, seen something that's weird. And they're just trying to figure out what the hell is going on. And then before you know it, you're digging through classified reports. You're trying to figure out who's the truth tellers, who's the liars.
You're listening to Richard
different
Doty
agendas
in the back channels. You know what I mean?
Oh,
like,
don't do
weird
that.
shit
Don't do that.
Weird shit happens when you see some strange stuff you can't explain, man.
Right,
now,
right.
But yeah, so back to Jack Sarfati, right? Like, he didn't find any of that strange. He was like, okay, understandable. Yeah, temporal
very
stuff? Strange. Yeah, very strange. He goes, well, what about cancers? He's like, do you have any cancer? Do you have cancer in your family? Do you know anybody within that immediate area that had cancer from that craft being there? And he was real fucking hung up on that. But he was honest about being hung up on that. He told me, he was like, that's what I'm interested in. That's what I'm trying to find out now. And that's what I'm talking to certain members of the government. Like, aside from his tech stuff that he says he's going to Russia and doing. This is just straight out of his mouth to me in a Logan space, right? Like, so yeah, I don't know, man. Very, very fucking odd, dude. The weird aspect
He'll hop
of
in there
Havana Syndrome, you know.
Yeah, he'll hop in there in a space sometimes and share some interesting information from time to time.
Yep. Yep.
But yes, a lot of this stuff matches up with Havana Syndrome, and we know. At least we think we know, that was a targeted attack. Another country aimed a weapon at our embassy and injured people with frequencies, right? A directed energy weapon. And so we know they exist. It's not a if they exist. Now it's if they exist, they can make us see things that aren't there. They can make us afraid of things when we shouldn't be afraid. They can debilitate us and even cause seizures in us.
Make us hear what we assume is God at that point.
Yes. You know? Yes. So now you take the unknown of what are these things flying above us in our skies? And now we have to worry about, are we really even seeing these things that are flying above us in the skies?
Well, so what I try to do is I try to look at, like, where the evolution of certain things came from. Like, maybe they were building the technology in the craft and they noticed certain anomalies that would happen, like with microwave technology and stuff, via communication and like disruption and stuff, right? And then let's say they just keep pressing that, and they figure out, like, oh wow, we can hone this in and like implant thoughts in people's heads, do certain things like that, you know, like because that's what this seems like, is like a lot of microwave technology, but that was all like 60s spy shit, you know, as far as our own CIA was working on, and Russia was doing this shit since I'd say like 1930s onward, you know, like they did have that massive array that was called a Mosquito. You know, it was a giant radar array that we still don't know exactly what the hell it was used for. You know, they gave us some cock and bull story. Yeah. And it's defunct now, but it's massive. Like, it's in world marvels, right? Like if you look at some of the stuff Germany was doing during World War II, like building bridges from one mountaintop to another, you know, like a type of shit, like the Swiss Alps and stuff, right? That's marvels. Because first off, they would build a part of it and then run out of money to build anything connecting it. So you'll have these random ghost bridges in Bavaria and shit like that. Then you have things like this where it's like the massive radar array that Russia used for 2 years. You know what I mean? It was so big, strong, and powerful that they eventually had to turn it off because it was annoying the world.
Let's do this. I've got because I know there's people watching this right now that aren't familiar with that, just like me. So let me actually share a little video. Let's check this out. So it was the Russian, you call it mosquito array?
Yeah, that was like the slang term for it. Like that's what the rest of the world called it because it had kind of like a weird mosquito buzz noise.
Okay. Yeah, this is supposed to be...
Day, 1976. A day of celebration for hundreds of millions of American citizens.
Yeah,
in
that's
1964, the Mykolaiv receiver was able to successfully detect the launch of a rocket from the Baikonur Cosmodrome. And the team, of course, celebrated their success and began to work on a larger version of the project. The first true Duga array was built on the outskirts of the city of Mykolaiv like the prototype and consisted of 2 locations. The transmitter in the village of Luch,
huge,
and the receiver on the outskirts of Kalnivka, some 24 kilometers north-northwest.
It's cool seeing it new.
Now,
like I've only
the
seen it
transmitter was the
like
one-
defunct and covered in like wildlife and rubbish and shrubbery and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah. So this was what was the craziness about this? What did it do that stuck in your memory?
Well, it was what they didn't say that it did, right? Like they gave a cock and bull story as what it was used for, and then they really never elaborated on what they used it for. Like they gave you what it was supposed to be used for, but not what it was.
What was it supposed to be used for?
Sorry, I'm like on my porch in the only area that I get signal. So there's some fucking Amazon truck backing up right now.
Oh, you're good, buddy. Wow, look at that. The Krug.
And see, these are all different ones that are along the same program. I didn't know that it went this vast. I think it was like Dark 5, the YouTube documentaries that they put out, like that I even noticed this thing in like 5-6 years ago.
Now is this the where the Upside Down came from?
Oh, probably, dude.
I think
Vecna.
If you look,
just
if we zoom in, I think we might be able to see a Demigorgon in there. I don't know.
That or a Sarlacc pit, dude. I wouldn't put it past a good old fucking Darth to Sarlacc it up down there.
So what do you think it was doing that they didn't tell us? Do you have any theories?
Disruption of missiles. Like the same thing that it can like receive stuff. It can send out signals.
Right.
You know, like
right.
You just all you have to do is hone in on the frequency and you know, you can do a lot of weird, wacky fucking things. And I couldn't help but notice the same pattern that a lot of the Germans were building their radar stuff in, which was like those big circular fucking units.
So Steve's pointing out here the DIRDs, which basically, I believe the feeling is that these are reports that were kind of purchased after the fact to make AAWSAP look a little more legitimate and justify the spending of the $22 million. That was clearly the story of Bigelow giving to Reed's campaign, and then very soon after that getting that deal was pretty telling, I think. However, I don't know that it detracts from the actual study.
Yeah, we can't forget that he was sort of an inside guy that got like teased with getting special access, and he was okay with that. He
Who's
wasn't
that?
all
Which
about
one?
Bigelow. He was
Bigelow,
going to be
yes.
an inside man. He's kind of just butthurt that he didn't get fully brought in, and I get that same vibe from Eric Weinstein. As much as I like him, I get the same vibe because look at what happened with Epstein, right? The second he found out about Epstein, and he wasn't butthurt about not getting chosen by Epstein. He was creeped out and wanted to get the fuck out of there, So he immediately came out and was like, oh, this, that, and the other. Now he was totally okay getting special access to certain physics programs and things when he thought he was getting those, and he wasn't whistleblowing shit, right? So I don't know, two-star comparisons on how he acts when I don't know, when being genuine and disingenuous. You know what I mean?
So yeah, and he's been going on podcasts for the last year or two talking about how he believed the CIA basically took anti-gravitic research out of the equation, essentially, right? They either bought it, killed for it, or classified it.
Or changed the name several dozen times, like I think they did. I don't think it's classified in the way we think. I think that it's out there, right? We could find enough stuff on it, but it's changed names and changed processes, like a aether, right? The term aether has been used since the fucking Greeks, maybe, to describe a certain thing, and then it was adopted into alchemy, then adopted into science, and then cast away once its use was said and done. And now what do we call it? Quantum space, quantum time. It's the fucking ether. This is what people have been describing for eons. AEONS.
Just the same thing with a different name.
Yep.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what I'm getting from these is you'll get legacy programs that start, and you get people who are associated with those programs, and then once the public almost get wind of it, right? Because I think if they're waiting until we get wind, they're too late already. So what they do is every couple of years, no matter what, they just start a new program, new names, new classifications, and then those get fucking buried, right? You take bits and pieces out of those programs. Maybe a couple of scientists switch over. Cough, cough, Hal Puthoff. I think it's something similar to that,
Yeah. It did sound like a lot of that. Just maybe that's a good point. Maybe not classifying, but discouraging in one way or another.
Well, yeah, and unclassified.
From advancing.
You have to realize that the whole classification process is a way to hide shit anyway, and not just on the face of it, where it's okay, this is classified, it's hidden. By leaving things unclassified and not put into a folder file associated with other things, it just hangs there. It's in an archive that nobody knows to even look up. I think it was Mr. Black Vault, was it Greenwald, who said that a lot of these things are in unclassified things that are then declassified, but the declassification really kind of just puts it into a folder of where it belongs, as opposed to just being on the outskirts of. Oh man, I saw this I think it was 1735 file where that was the original Blue Book. Blue Book changed names 16 times before it eventually landed with Blue Book and Hynek took control.
Right. Yeah. It seems like these programs do. They change names. And they also give them really weird names. So, okay. Now the thing about, we went through that injury report. This is what bothers me is that the injuries are very real. I don't think we can, I don't think there's any argument over that.
Can I interject with one thing that I
Why you're here, buddy?
All right, so there was a craft that I believe it was either a military technician or it was a mechanic, right? Not on duty, I believe in his tow truck, whatever, driving, right? And he sees a craft land. He's kind of just sat there. He walks up to it, to what he believes is an entry port or kind of like a lookout hole. It turns out it's not. It's an exhaust, and he gets blasted with some kind of radiation, and it leaves if I'm being honest and I'm being funny as hell, trying to be funny, it looks like he got slapped with a steaming hot White Castle burger on his stomach, right? Where it's got
Oh,
like these
man.
circle things, right? But a giant one, right? But then I later, through declassified files through, I think it was the Department of Energy, NASA old propulsion tech, where they had ion propulsion exhaust ports that looked exactly like that. Like, I mean, exactly like that. And the photos were from the 70s. They were declassified in, I believe, like it was like the 90s. But just sat there. Nobody ever fucking looked at these things because it was, a random archive for, and I'll tell you what it is now because it is like a couple months after I've seen it. Nobody's reported on it. So now let's fucking bring people to it. It was what is it? Test bed technology and what is it? Experimental craft. There you go. Test bed technology and experimental craft.
Say that again?
Test bed technology in experimental craft. But you can, any of those keywords there should bring you up something.
Test bed technology in experimental craft?
Yeah. And you can look up any of those separately with NASA. Like look up NASA experimental spacecraft, NASA experimental drives, experimental engines. Nobody's looking at these things, and I'm tired of being the only one who's seen them now. So,
well, I'll get it up on the board. Y'all hear that? So, test bed technology and experimental craft. Okay, I'm gonna look into that, and while I do that,
it should be.
This is Eric Davis.
Like the guy's injuries. You can look it up like a radiation damage from UFO, 60s or 70s, like that, and you'll get his image.
Okay. All right. NASA STI program.
Yeah, it might be Star Wars Defense Initiative, or because they did another one in the 90s. I actually have a post on my Twitter about it, where it was a ion propulsion drive, and it looks like a newer version. You know what I mean? Like, because this one's already working. It went on some satellite that went pretty far out.
Right. So, I mean, they're doing this, and that's what's interesting in that DIRD. When Eric Davis is talking about it, he's saying aerospace technology, future aerospace technology. Well, if it's happening now, how could it be future aerospace technology?
Yeah, that's a weird little hang up. I love that, dude, because that means where do they get the plans from? 2037? Like...
He set up
sci-fi?
He set up
so
to
cool.
2050.
Wow,
So
that's awesome.
It's crazy. And I get why people like Steve thinks that's pseudoscience, because that's like, where's your evidence of that? But yeah, Steve's saying, unfortunately, the U.S. government was not swayed easily by their speculation, pseudoscience, and tabloids as the UFO community. Now,
well, that's always the thing, right? Though they always say that. They always go, NASA or the government's always 100 years ahead of the public. And
DARPA
maybe
in particularly is
right. So maybe
that's 40
what
years?
that is. We're looking at a campaign for them to get bucks. That's just a slogan they say. It means nothing. And maybe the guy who called them out on it is good for calling them out on it.
I would push back a little on this statement, Steve, only because I have had on a guest that was injured by their interaction with UAP or UFO, whatever you want to call it, whatever nomenclature you want to give it. But and granted, that is, why can I never think of this word when I need it? It's one person's account, right? It doesn't speak for everything. Anecdotal, yes. Granted, it's an anecdotal account, but it's a very real account. And I mean, we literally, like Eric Mitchell, you can track Eric Mitchell's medical problems from when that first happened until today. And that's just one person.
Yeah,
It's
I
like,
think it's important though. Like, we need to look at what the FBI does, though, right? Like, their investigations are turning our analytical, or not analytical, anecdotal data into empirical data, right? Like, they're running down the fucking leads. So, like, that's what I tried to bring forth with like Virginia Giuffre, right? Like, all of her testimony was only anecdotal until they ran through all of the facts, you know, and they corroborated her stuff. Then it was empirical. You couldn't go against the FBI's fucking investigation on what they claimed was true from what she said, you know, like, it works with UFOs. Like, when they start doing their reports and start digging into things and start pointing out facts, that shit becomes empirical at that point.
yeah. Well, and George Knapp did say, did he say he was contacted by the FBI and that they are doing an ongoing investigation into all of this? My concern is, and it's not really a concern. I guess it's kind of a concern, more of a thought, but just that there is real, legitimate UFO activity that happens. But I'm afraid that they're going to use it as cover for directed energy weapons. And I feel like that's kind of what this paper is. It's like, well, we can do all this to people, but also UAPs do this to people.
Yeah, dude, I agree.
So I think it's important to identify that bridge there, because
Absolutely.
Why do they want us to accept? I don't know. I guess I can't say they want us to accept anything, because this is a report Eric Davis wrote for, at the time, what he believed to be a confidential audience. So it's not like this was written for us. It's, the magics of FOIA working, but these legacy programs, I don't think they document a lot, if anything.
Yeah, I agree. Or they don't document what we'd like them to fucking document. Those things get written on paper and stuffed in somebody's desk, possibly.
Yeah. Okay. I need to take a sip of my beverage, and I'll be right back. But while I do that,
I'm going to actually have to run for a little bit.
All right, sir. Thanks for stopping by.
I will be back in probably about an hour if you still got this bad boy going.
Yeah, we'll see if we're still running or not. But yeah, hit me up, buddy. Thanks for stopping by. It's always a pleasure.
Peace out. Happy holidays. Thanks for having me, brother.
Absolutely. Flak Magnet, ladies and gentlemen. Flak Magnet. Thank you, sir. We appreciate it. Now get out of here. I'm just kidding. All right. So here's Eric Davis at the Soul Foundation with Peter Skafish and a couple of others, discussing some of his work. Let's check this out.
Well, there's been very little signatures that have been collected from UFOs or UAPs since the dawn of the era in the modern times, when they landed in the larger public consciousness, and we had an established military and scientific community with the instrumentation that can detect them and analyze the signatures. Unfortunately, measurements of those things were not a dedicated priority back in those days, starting in the 1940s. So nowadays, it's become the most important priority, like Project Galileo out at Harvard. That was established by Professor Avi Loeb, I'm sorry, and UAPX and other UAP organizations out there, including Arrow and whatnot. And so now their task is to set up sensing systems and scan the skies daily, 24/7, 365, to try to hopefully collect signatures. And signatures are everything in the electromagnetic spectrum. So everything from radar to visual to ultraviolet, infrared, and so forth. And I haven't heard that anybody has put forth any sensing capability or proposal to sense acoustic signatures. Los Alamos National Lab had the infrasonic acoustic system that was set up for global surveillance to monitor nuclear test ban treaty violations. And it was determined that they could detect objects moving through the atmosphere at orbital speed that are as small as 5 centimeters. And those would be great detectors for UAPs traveling through the atmosphere. So anyway, so what are some of the knowns about with the UAP physics? What we know is that they exhibit physical and anti-physical properties. The physical properties are people see them moving at hypersonic speeds, and then they move steadily at very fast, steady speed across the sky. They rapidly accelerate. They can change direction on a dime without decelerating and accelerating to turn that corner. The anti-physical is that they can hover as if there was some sort of an anti-gravity or gravitational repulsion effect against the Earth's gravity field. And there's some other anti-physical things that occur as well. So so the knowns are limited to what we visually observe.
So I run down the hallway real quick to grab a fresh beverage, and Red Bull, zero sugar monk fruit. If you're looking to sponsor a UFO and news show, this is the one. This is the one. I'm telling you, this is the show. But I'm running down there, and I hear Peter Skafish, dude, turn off your microphone when others are speaking and you're typing on your computer. How annoying is that? Rude.
Eyewitnesses and what's been recorded on film and whatnot, or video. The unknowns are a lot. There's just a lot. We have very, very sparse data of any kind of electric field, magnetic field emissions, or electromagnetic field emissions, and we need those.
Okay, we just read a report where Eric Davis said they have a bunch of information on electromagnetic fields. So what happened between 2009 or 10 or whenever that report came out and today, where now they have no data? Like, how does that work? You just wrote this huge report. We just went through, I read almost all of it to y'all verbatim. I mean, covered most of it. Many times he said we have significant amounts of data. But this was last year, 2025. But within the last 12 months, he's giving this interview at Soul saying that, well, we just don't have a lot of that data. We need more of it. Oh, which is it, Eric?
Only just a couple of cases I know of dating back to the 1980s and possibly even the 90s where at least a magnetic field, a DC magnetic field, was detected and recorded on a strip chart device. And so that's what we need. That's the kind of information we need. We also need thermal heat signatures, and it would be beautiful to get a spectrum. If these things are reflecting light, the spectrum can help because the light is reflected off the body of the craft, and what that body absorbs in sunlight that does not get reflected shows up as dark lines in the spectrum of the reflected light. And that's very helpful to help us understand what the exterior structure is made out of. So the unknowns that we need are spectrum, hyperspectral imaging, which can give us thousands to hundreds of thousands of wavelengths, as well as, and that goes across the entire electromagnetic spectrum, at least short of X-rays and well into the deep infrared. So that's what we need. We also need electric and magnetic fields, as I said, both RF, DC, and AC emitted fields. And nuclear radiation is helpful because there's been evidence from the 1950s that UAP craft have radioisotopes on board in their structures. It's not in the form of a fuel or a power source. It's been more of structural incorporated materials to alter their electromechanical, electrothermal properties. And so if we get an idea of what kind of nuclear radiation is being emitted, that would be wonderful too, because the nuclear radiation we would want to look at is alpha rays, or alpha particles, which are helium nuclei, beta rays, which are electrons, and gamma rays, and so forth. We don't expect to see isotopes being emitted. We haven't had evidence of that, where actual, uranium or californium or some other actinide atoms are being emitted, which is good. We don't need radioactive slag laying all over the place, contaminating the environment. So gamma radiation, X radiation, and the traditional alpha and beta radiation are important. Those are the unknowns we'd like to get a hold of. And so that's about it. That's about all I can think of.
Okay.
There's no audio.
I love the point that Steve is making there, is that you have to take this stuff with a grain of salt. You have to consider that Eric Davis has been associated with so many of these UFO circle jerks that, like, it's amazing he still has his clearance, unless everything he's been putting out is bullshit that the government wants him to put out to mislead people. I don't know what else to say about that. Because this is the same guy that said this.
Are they multiple species? Are they what was their size, and how many are usually on a craft?
They're typically the multiple species people are familiar with, the Greys, the Nordics. People are talking about reptilians and insectoids. It's not that they're reptilian or insectoid, it's that they resemble to the recipient of reptile or insect type humanoid, because they have a head and 4 limbs and torso.
So large, small.
Yeah, see, Berlin's got the same look on his face you probably did the first time you heard that, if you heard that. But yes, he went to, oh God, which one was this? The UAP Disclosure Fund or something. One of the ones that Lou's a part of that he's not anymore. And said in front of this audience that included members of Congress that the Greys, the reptilians, the insectoids, and the Nordics are all legit. Fuck, maybe they are. I don't know. But for him to be writing scientific reports and be speculating that's a reality, I can tell you right now, I saw before my very own eyes when reptilians went from this conspiracy theory of living in tunnels under the earth and controlling everything because they can shapeshift to now they are aliens. Like, literally watch them morph into part of the UFO lore and speculation, as Steve puts it. Yeah. It's the same stuff. It's just been 20, 30, 40 years. So it's a shame too, Steve, because I thought we were going to have alternatives to that. Like when Skywatcher came out, I thought, okay, here's an alternative to the same old narrative that we know might have a little bit of truth, but probably has a lot of misinformation as well. We know there's misinformation in there because the intelligence community has been pumping it full of misinformation as long as there's been an intelligence community and as long as there's been a UFO community. So we know that. Do you think the intelligence community fucks with the comic book community? Like, do you think the IC goes into Comic Con and starts trying to convince people of certain narratives? Do you think they go to like a paranormal convention and they try to convince all those people of different narratives and different beliefs? No, they come to the UFO conventions. And they pump them full of misinformation. And we have a long documented history of this. We have ones that have done it and then been reaccepted into the community as truth tellers. So yeah, I was looking for an alternative, and I thought like maybe Skywatcher would be that, but it's not. The same people get their hands into everything. Is there a there? If we look at our intelligence community's actions, there is 100% a there. What it is, to me, that's the debate. Is it UFOs, UAPs, or is it directed energy weapons that you're experimenting on the population with? Or maybe directed energy weapons that got away from your control and some people have them with ill intentions and can use them. Is it a breakaway civilization that continuously fucks with us? Yeah, you got it, Steve. UAP or SAP, right? It's so frustrating. It's so maddening when you're researching this shit. And then you get a guy that's supposed to be, respectable. We just read his report talking about 4 alien species, and you go, what? It's all anecdotal evidence unless they have something we don't have, which maybe they do. And maybe that's what he's referring to. I don't fucking know. Eric Davis knows something. Something he's not telling us. He knows that he knows. Why else would you stake your reputation like that? 4 alien species.
The concern UAP and that have actually created something like a legal administrative framework for classified programs. So the question concerns, can you say anything about the source you have for that information or why you're confident about that? And can you shed some more light on that?
There's no source for this information. I have security clearances with the intelligence community and the Department of Defense, so I see these presidential emergency action directives within that community in a classified basis. So I already know their history. The Brennan Center has a web page that mentions the PEAD. The PEAD is what we'll call it here. So this isn't source information. It's not a rumor. It's not a myth. It's factual, classified information. Although the PEAD itself is not classified by name or its existence, because the Brennan Center has already written something up about it on its website. So I think the question switched in front of me, so I couldn't answer. So I can't remember can you switch that question back to the first one? Yeah, there we go. So then the second part is, how confident am I that the PEAD exists? Well, it's 100%. Because Jim Semivan, who retired from the CIA back in 20.
That's the thing, Steve. That's why I go back and forth. Because it's like the man sat there and talked about 4 alien species. So either he really believes this to be true, or he is part of some misinformation intelligence operation. And to make it even more fucked up, both could be true. But yeah, it's hard to see him as a liar and professional deceiver. I'm totally with you on that.
2016, 2015, or thereabouts. He knows all about the PEADs, and he has encountered those during the 30-plus year career that he had at the Central Intelligence Agency. And so the PEADs are well known. If you're in the intelligence community for a long time, and you work up at high level, you'll see. I'm sorry, I just got flipped off my phone there. There we go. You'll see the PEDS come up in some sort of briefing environment. Okay, what's the last part of that? There was a third part of that question. Private aerospace contractors working in the legacy programs would be intimately familiar with the details. I cannot answer that question. That is a document that's specific to the president, the White House, and the National Security Council, and probably the National Security Advisor. I don't believe a document like that goes to the legacy crash retrieval companies in the sense that they get briefed on a president.
That's an interesting way to put it. The legacy crash retrieval companies.
They probably don't need to know that. They already know they're in a classified program. They know what the circumstance and the regime of that classification is. And just to know that it was established by Presidential Emergency Action Directive is of no concern to them. All they're concerned about is they operate under the NISPOM rules. That's the National Industrial Security Program Operating Manual. So you operate under the NISPOM rules, and you know that you set up a program under a government contract according to the steps laid out in those rules. You know what your classification environment is, and you don't need to necessarily know who originated it. And I doubt very much that anybody in the legacy programs even are aware of who initiated the whole cover for the secrecy or the whole umbrella of secrecy on the legacy programs originating from the president's office. That's probably two ways.
I wonder what they're actually called, the legacy, because they don't call them legacy programs. I wonder what name they have for themselves. It's probably some like super cool, stealthy, like what's that falcon that kills you when it like dives down from the sky? Peregrine Falcon? I don't remember, but I bet it's some name like that for the UFO legacy programs.
Yep, above their pay grade, and I think it is. And these guys are focused more on the technical aspect rather than the policy level aspects way above them.
Okay, so a follow-up question to that, Eric, is did any Lockheed Martin executives, besides the late Dr. Ryder, have knowledge of plans to transfer UAP material from Lockheed to AAWSAP or Kona Blue? I know that's a kind of hot question, but it's something that has been raised, and we leave it to your discretion to answer that.
It would be Dr. Ryder's former supervisor, the executive vice president of Lockheed Martin. So that she was the other one that would know.
Okay. I'll tell you, so when To the Stars was still a thing, Eric Davis and Hal Puthoff did that study on arts parts. And I was not impressed. Because the way the study was done, I think was okay. But then when they complete the study and they go, we were going to have independent verification for this study, but because of COVID, they couldn't fly here or something like that. Like we couldn't schedule them here at a convenient time or something. Like email doesn't work. Like what are you talking about? You can't have them verify it from his own lab? No, you'd have to come to your lab to verify it, I guess. But either way, so instead of waiting for this guy to have time and come and independently verify their findings, they just went ahead and published it and said, oh, he couldn't make it. What the fuck? What kind of study is that? Super weird. Okay, let's go to Eric Davis on probably a better interview. I think this is with Green Street a little while ago. Let's check this one out.
Were you involved with AATIP?
Yes, I was.
In what respect were you involved with AATIP?
As a consultant. And then the AAWSAP program was where I was actually a subcontractor as an employee here,
We were a subcontractor to Bigelow Aerospace Advanced Space Studies, BAAS.
Oh my God. Like, how does Lou Elizondo manage to fool so many people, y'all? So many people. People in our own government were tricked by this man. AATIP is AAWSAP. It's the same thing.
SS on the AAWSAP, which was the other side of AATIP. AATIP was handled out of the Office of the Undersecretary of Defense for Intelligence, and AAWSAP was at the Defense Intelligence Agency. And that's the actual funded program that received enough congressional appropriation to hire outside contractors like BASS and EarthTech to work on the programs.
Okay, so you ultimately were part of the Pentagon's UFO program.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What kind of stuff did you do for the Pentagon UFO program?
Oh, basically, what I just discussed was we had well, first of all, we gave technical advice to the field investigation. We'd get information in, data on reports, and we would do physics analysis and report back on what our opinion or assessments on the field investigations and data was on a variety of observations and encounters of UFO phenomenon. But one big main part of our work was to hire 38 independent expert scientists in industry, academia, and government to write defense intelligence reference documents on future transformation concepts for concepts that we can envision in the year 2050, and take what we have in our existing really advanced physics and really advanced aerospace technology and evolve it to the future of 2050 and see what it looks like, and see if we can compare, see if we have any hopes of developing an advanced technology in 2050 that's comparable to the Tic Tac UFOs that the USS Nimitz and Roosevelt encountered, and the other type of UFOs that the other naval warships have encountered out in the Middle East.
So that was the framework of the DIRD that we reviewed. Is they're trying to apparently look at what could be the dangers of this future technology all the way out to 2050, but also that people have been hurt by these technologies even though they don't exist now. So if you can make that make sense to me, let me know. I would love to talk to you. That just makes zero sense. And I posted, Steve said this earlier about the To the Stars Academy studies, that the reluctance of them to let others review it, and the results of the Army tests, which show the materials to be unimpressive. Yes, the materials were all from within our solar system, our planet. And I think what they said was really the main, what could be non-human technology was essentially the way that it was thinly layered together. That we didn't have a technology at that time that could layer these metals together as thinly as they were layered together, but turns out they might have been melted together. I don't know. But yes, they did not get that independently verified. And that was it's really kind of shocking, because you would think Eric Davis and Hal Puthoff doing a study together, they would want it to be scientific, but it's more of a trust me bro study.
East and elsewhere around the Pacific and Atlantic.
Okay, so you said that part of your job at AAWSAP, right? AAWSAP?
Yeah, AAWSAP.
AAWSAP was you would get reports and you guys would study and analyze the physics behind those reports. What kind of reports are you talking about?
One was a Navy laser weapon report about the development of the breakthroughs in solid-state laser weapon technology. Another one was a paper I co-authored as a second author on extra space dimensional warp drive. So the lead author got his PhD in physics at Baylor University in Waco, Texas, on looking at extra space dimensions and drawing on vacuum energy, quantum vacuum energy from the extra dimensions to power a warp drive. So we co-authored a paper. Then I wrote as a single author a paper on traversable wormholes, and then I wrote a paper on how to explore the quantum vacuum to produce negative vacuum energy that you would need to create a wormhole in a warp drive. And then I authored a paper on anti-gravity propulsion physics using general relativity, because all that is all wrapped up into the same physics. Other people talked about smart materials, nanomaterials, MHD aerospace propulsion systems, hypersonic propulsion, invisibility cloaks using metamaterials, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There were 38 reports. I don't have the list of them here.
I have them. I don't have all of them. Only a few, I think, were released, but I have the one on traversable wormholes. Okay, one quick thing about AAWSAP. So, how long did you work with AAWSAP?
All right. Well, yeah. The thing I'm interested in is that medical report. You know, one thing, and I did try to point it out at the beginning of when we were looking at the paper, is that, you know, the very first thing on there when you start looking at the report is the entire goal of this is not to help these people that suffered injuries. The whole idea is to reverse engineer possible non-human tech, advanced tech, through diagnoses of these individuals. In other words, if they're suffering from this issue, that's because it is caused by this type of an electromagnetic field or radio frequency or microwave frequency. So we know if this observer saw this thing flying that high, they suffered this injury, that might mean that it's using XYZ type of propulsion. You take that with the way it was moving, and maybe you can start to try to reverse engineer the craft. But nothing about the victims of these injuries. You have to sue. That's the only way you're going to, I mean, Danny Sheehan is working with, I said at the beginning of the show, several current and ex-military members who are right now working their way through the court, suing the government for causing these injuries to them, or at least putting these soldiers in a position where these injuries happen to them and not doing anything about it. That's the shit that matters. The actual people, not the report, not the intelligence community, not the government and disclosure. You, me, the people. We are the ones that matter in this. Oh, I love it, Steve. He says, Sheehan is more unreliable than Eric Davis. And you know what? There's a bit of truth to that. There's a bit of truth to that. Because if you missed it earlier, if you understand how the justice system works, Sheehan going out there and giving these interviews where he's saying, once these things work their way through the courts, we're going to be able to share all of it, is blatantly false. Either they're going to lose and they won't be able to share anything, or they're going to settle and they won't be able to share anything. We're not going to get the goods on those reports. Maybe in 20, 30, 40 years. Maybe if we can get a congressperson with enough balls to put up the UAP Disclosure Act as a standalone bill and not back down at the first bit of resistance, that would be cool. So we're going to do another space on these injuries because I'm going to go and do some digging. If I can get Jack Brewer to come and talk to me, I think that would be fantastic. I know he's written a paper on it. I've read a little bit of it, and I think it was very well done. I think he's definitely taking the actual facts into account, which is what we should all be doing. But yes, we're definitely going to dig into this in 2026 because either way, if the UAP or UFO is causing injury, then we need to know about that. And we need to know what can be done, if anything, to avoid or treat that. And the other half of that is, if this is unknown advanced technology that's causing this damage, we need to know that as well. Because if they're just flying this shit around, like you hear people say the Tic Tac is US Tech, it's Lockheed Martin Tech. So you're telling me they just flew these things around, our pilots who are flying multi-million-dollar aircraft just to see? That's almost harder to swallow than it being not of this earth. That's ridiculous. Thanks, Steve. I try to be a real truth seeker. It's so easy to get caught up in the bullshit, you know, the rhetoric from one side or the other. But yes, one thing I promise you, watch this show, I'm going to be 100 with you every time. Every time. I don't have an agenda. I don't have a side I've sold out to. I am objective, and I'm sick of the bullshit. Thank you for watching. Please tune in for the next show we have on UAP injuries, especially if you're affected by or know someone that was affected by an injury. We're going to do something about this. If this has to go as far as like starting some nonprofit organization to help these people, fuck it. I'm tired of this shit. I'm tired of the talk and no action. And everybody's standing around scratching their ass. All these people injured. Nobody's helping them. No, one guy is, Eric Mitchell. And like nobody else. All right. Have a great evening, afternoon, whatever time it may be where you are all. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you next time on the show. I had Luis Cayetano scheduled for today, but we had something come up. So I do have it scheduled for later this week. So look out for that podcast again. Luis Cayetano wrote the paper on the confusion of AATIP and AAWSAP. It's on Scientific American, Popular Science. So he's a great guest. I love having him on, and it's really a dash of reality in all this. He runs the website ufologyiscorrupt.com. So not, and he makes it clear, like, he doesn't believe all ufology is corrupt, but there's definitely a segment out there where, it's either corrupt or it's either misled. I'll put it that way. All right, y'all. Have a great day. I'll see you next time.